Simon Gould here, the owner and director of LifeVac Australia, former paramedic and more than 25 years as a clinical educator for health professionals. 15 years as a paramedic taught me that there are only a handful of emergencies that are absolutely time critical. Severe choking is one of these. I also saw firsthand that no ambulance can arrive to help in the brief 4-minute window in severe choking. I also learnt that first aid is not a magic fix and does not always work in time with every patient, especially in Australia, where we rely on some poor quality, unevidenced and untested advice. I am proud to say that since bringing the LifeVac through the TGA clinical, evidence and risk review and listing process, the LifeVac has helped save more lives in Australia than I ever did as a paramedic. This was not by chance or by manipulating case reports, but by a dedication to research, real-world testing, and compliance with strict regulatory processes and ongoing surveillance, and a level of rigour that is not present in first aid. Sometimes simple solutions are the best, and new technologies can change the historical paradigm of poor outcomes. I saw this firsthand when defibrillators were introduced into the community. This initiative, which was initially resisted by resuscitation bodies in Australia and likely cost many lives as a result, this resistance was simply based on unsubstantiated opinions and a lack of knowledge of medical device regulatory rigour. In Australia, there is in fact no legislative or legal barrier, specific liability, code, or requirement for additional endorsement or training restriction on using the LifeVac in an emergency after first aid fails. There is no approval or endorsement required under any law or legislation by any other organisation other than the TGA to use a LifeVac in an emergency without training and be protected from specific liability. This is the same situation with public access defibrillators, and this is determined by the TGA and not by any other body without legislated authority, despite their claims. Under Australian law, in an emergency, there is no specific liability for an individual or organisation that relies on endorsement or adherence to ANZCOR guidelines. To be frank, although guidelines are helpful for some as a very minimum level of generic training to suggest what might work, but with no guarantees, there is as much legal protection and legislative support for this notion of authority as the need to only buy a mattress that is endorsed by the Australian Chiropractic Association. As a professional, my loved ones are protected by LifeVac, and I believe yours should be also. Go to lifevac.net.au today